My name is Rachel Clive, and I'm delighted to be here with my two co-presenters, Ewan Hayton and Browne. We're here today to talk about the research we've been doing with rivers. I am a neurodivergent theatre practitioner and an interdisciplinary researcher at the University of Glasgow in the final stages of a practice-based PhD. The PhD is neurodivergent-led and ecological in focus. It's primarily interested in how we can work with rivers as co-performers in theatre and research processes. The research used a mixed participatory action research and theatre practice as research methodology. This means that it worked performatively with the experiences, concerns, and river connections that participating performers brought with them to the processes. As part of the research, I facilitated 5 separate performance projects, which were called collectively the Panicky Projects. The Panicky Projects worked with more than 40 fellow neurodivergent artists and researchers from across central Scotland. They also worked with 3 major UK river networks, the River Clyde, the River Severn, and the River Forth. In her book, Authoring Autism, critical autism scholar Melanie Yergo talks about the tendrils of sensation and interrelation that invent knowledge and mediate autistic experience. Exploring and expressing these tendrils of sensation and interrelation as they relate to our connections with the water and rivers we live with is something that was at the heart of the Panicky Projects. As autistic cultural geographer Sarah Judge, who feels particularly connected to water, says, "Understanding waterways as communicative entities is an inherent part of how I think about them, largely because of the synesthetic way that my brain processes auditory information, eliciting visual, proprioceptive, and tactile accompaniments. The sound of water looks and feels similar to human and non-human voices, according to my senses. It has never occurred to me that a river is any less communicative than a bird or a human." Citing Donna Haraway, Judge argues that her experience can constitute data as a view from somewhere, and she is interested in challenging notions of the autistic and non-human as socially or communicatively deficit, whilst simultaneously enriching work around water as an autonomous entity. But to do this, she argues, she needs to be able to express her experiences. Judge refers to the Autistic Autobiographies work of cultural geographer Joyce Davidson as one possible means of expression and as an important precedent in validating the knowledge created in autistic accounts of experience. The Panicky Projects researched how we can express our lived experiences and living connections with rivers and estuaries through performance practices. They did this in a variety of ways, through mapping, through autobiographical performances, through explorations with materials and materiality, through engaging with environmental flood risk discourses, and through movement, mythology, poetry, film, and sound practices. One of the Panicky Projects was autoethnographic. This project explored my relationship with my own neurodivergence and my ability to resist stigmatization on account of that neurodivergence. I did this through a series of performance interventions with the River Severn, a river that I have a lived connection with. During the project, I explored the demonization of parts of the river through discourses of flooding, the attempted control of the river through geoengineering, and the pollution of the river through dumping of toxic waste and sometimes nuclear waste. I also explored dynamics of confluence and flow. This autoethnographic project was important in helping me to interrogate my own positioning in the wider research, to test out the performance methods that I was developing and sharing with others. And it also helped me to distill some of the overarching research questions. I'll be delighted to answer any questions about either the theatre practice or the research methods at the end of the panel. But for just now, I'm absolutely delighted to hand over to my co-presenter, Ewan Hayton. Ewan collaborated with the 3 Panicky projects which worked with the River Clyde. Ewan will focus on questions of flow and his own autistic autobiography. Ewan will then hand on to Cameron Browne, a horticulturalist who collaborated with the Panicky project that worked with the River Forth in Stirlingshire. And Cameron will focus on questions of freedom space. So thanks very much, and over to you, Ewan.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi there, everybody. My name is Ewan Hayton, and I'm delighted to be able to share with you today some of my performance work as part of the Panicky Projects. My work with the Panicky Projects has been based around my living connection with 2 rivers. The River Clive in Houston, which I lived by from 2005 until 2019, and the White Cart River in Paisley, which I live by now. Both of these rivers are a part of the River Clyde network. One of the main themes for me for this performance process has been the theme of adapting to change. For example, moving house, my parents splitting up and meeting new partners. We all have to adapt to changes in our lives. As the author Emma Smith says, life is like the river. Sometimes it sweeps you gently along, and sometimes the rapids come out of nowhere. I have found that connecting and performing with the rivers I live with has helped me to adapt to change. I have also found that rivers need to adapt to change in their environments just the same as human beings do. Another main theme for me in this process has been about flow, about learning to go with the flow of the river and also learning to respect my own flow more. The first Panicky project was for me about learning to accept the highs as well as the lows and learning to trust in the flow. The most recent project was for me about learning to manage my anxieties and adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic situation. I also use my understanding of flow to help audiences manage their anxieties about the pandemic. Rivers play an important part in the natural environment around us and in the climate as well. I think a good thing that has happened for people during the COVID-19 crisis is that we are going out and exploring and seeing the natural world around us more, and this includes rivers. I think that the more we connect with our rivers and local environments personally, the more we will care about them. And we need to care about them more. This is part of what I want to get across from my involvement in the Panicky projects. I also want to share with audiences what autism means to me. Because I have found that there are many people who aren't autistic who want to understand autism a bit better. And I have also found that there are some autistic people who don't realise that it's okay to be autistic. It's not a negative thing. In fact, it can even be a strength. I would like to share a video with you now. This video shares documentation from the different Panicky projects I was a part of. It gives an idea of my processes and of my performances. It also includes some of my co-performers, Chrissy Nielsen, Hugh McIntyre, Alison Mackenzie, and Chloe Maxwell. Well, for me, I grew up by the River Clive in Houston, Renfrewshire, southwest of Glasgow. The Clive starts at the Clive Reservoir in Inverclyde near Greenock, and it ends when it joins the Black Cart. The Black Cart meets the White Cart near Glasgow Airport, and joins the River Clyde opposite Clyde Bank. The River Clive means a lot of things to me. It was my river for a long period. For 14 years of my life, the Clive was my river. I loved walking by the Clive. I do miss it. I hate the stereotypes that society has that autistic people or disabled people can't do things. When I was younger, I didn't even know I had autism, but my mum and dad could see that I was interacting with the world in a different way from other children. I was quite introverted. I think that's when I get diagnosed with dyspraxia, and I think the autism diagnosis came later. Someone who really inspires me is Greta Thunberg. I love that she stands up for the earth, stands up against the powerful people and the governments who could do something about climate change, but choose not to. I feel she is talking for young people, for younger generations, for autistic people, for people who feel powerless. She thinks her autism helps her to stand up for the earth. She reminds us that we are not powerless. We are strong. I love this earth we live in. This earth is like a mother to us because it's saying, I can protect you, but you need to look after me as well. Which is exactly what we need to do, now more than ever. We need to look out for each other. I don't live by the River Clive anymore, though I still feel connected to it. I live by the White Cart now, in Paisley. I loved where I lived before, but I love living in Paisley too. I've adapted to change a lot in my life, and I was wondering, what does adaptation mean to you? How do you adapt to change? Thank you. Thank you so much for watching that along with us, and I'll be happy to answer any questions in the discussion at the end about what I've just said or about the video, and I'll now pass it on to Cameron Browne.
Thank you very much there, Ewan. That really spoke to me on quite a level there. What you were saying with rivers, what you were saying about autism, sometimes feeling like you're trapped inside your own mind, and you know that you could relay or be of some use and put that use to somewhere and be really instructive, but the world's not really made for people like us. But I think the natural world, as you were saying, helps us to break free and release some of our energy, if you will, and flow. My name is Cameron Browne, and I have been working with Rachel Clyde on the Panicky Project. I have been working closely with Freedom Space, with rivers, particularly the River Forth. Freedom Space to me is people coming together across the globe to work with our natural world and not against it. One of the things at West Mossfide Farm, where I work, is it's a boggy, it's a natural bog, so it would hold water like a sponge if we let it. It also holds a lot else, and that it's doing it for us, and we don't need to do it ourselves. I think sometimes we go in and we rush in and we take it from it, and it causes other problems where we don't need to do that. It's already doing it for us, so we just need to listen, like with flooding and rivers when they burst their banks. Perhaps, you know, if we let these areas be natural bog or natural water source areas, then lets them flow much more naturally, and we just maybe need to move away and let these areas be areas they want, rather than cutting down and soaking up and moving this and moving that. Very destructive. Say what you will, but I think the past 2 years living with this virus, there's been viruses in the past, and I think this is just a way of sometimes nature going, I've had enough. You need to let go. You need to let me be who I want to be, and the same with people with mental health issues. You know, you need to let them be who they want to be. So I think freedom space is a lot to do with coming together and communicating with nature in a human way. So just to be outside and to hear the river flow. There's a lot that people don't understand about a river, where it starts and where it ends, and I think a river really has no ending or beginning, because it's a continuous flow. I think like a river, you need to take care of, or you could upset it. So I love a river as it speaks to me in many sorts of ways. Thank you very much for listening to what I've had to say today. I hope it's spoken to you as much as it speaks to me, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions anyone has got. Thank you again.